John Houston Stockton was born March 26, 1962 in Spokane, Washington, where he grew up the third youngest of four children to Jack and Clementine Stockton. During John's adolescent years, he was close to his sisters Stacy and Leanne, but it was older brother Steve that John had the strongest bond.
As for my brother and I, we competed. I competed constantly. I think that I'm 4 years younger than him, and it was never very difficult for him to beat me in anything. I spent most of my life just hoping to beat him once at something. I didn't care what it was, even if I could grow an inch taller than him or throw one strike past him, anything, and I would have been pleased.
If he and Steve mowed the lawn together, they'd figure out a way to compete while they're mowing the lawn. It would become a game to them. And they were that way shoveling the walks, pacing off, and see who could clear how much snow the quickest.
The competition between the two grew more fierce on the family driveway, playing the game they loved.
The backboard was attached to aluminum patio roof, so it was noisy. I mean, it bang, bang, bang constantly. Every night we'd have dinner and they'd go out and shoot hoops.
There were a lot of moments of bloody lips, pretty rugged battles that my parents seemed to ignore.
The games in the driveway were a lot of fun. They were a lot of fun for me early.
If I tried too hard to stop him, then I'd just get pushed into the fence or knocked down, and he'd hold the ball above his head and I'd jump for it and he'd just kind of tease me.
When John and Steve played, there were no rules. They were their own referees, and everything was subject of debate, let's put it that way.
The only rule was there were no rules, and if you made a bucket going to the hoop, you earned it and deserved it. They were pretty nasty.
Can't go left without getting airmailed into the wood fence, and we had the convent next door. And there's been a couple times that the sisters over there had to shut the windows due to some profanity.
And I remember coming in crying a couple times, and my mom wouldn't even stop washing a dish. She'd just say, well, if he's too big, don't play with him. And then I'd run out in the living room and see if Dad would do the same thing. And he said, don't go play with those big kids if they're too tough for you. And a few minutes later, I was out there pestering them again, trying to play.
John's ambitious nature didn't go unnoticed at St. Aloysius Elementary School.
John was a fierce competitor as a small, like 11, 12-year-old kid. John wasn't as good as a lot of the fellas we played in terms of like the left-handed lay-in, the three-point jump shot. But when you walk out of the gym, John's holding the trophy.
Not a great shooter, but an adequate shooter. Not a great driver. He certainly didn't develop his passing until he gained a little bit more size. But really just an overachiever because of his heart.
John wasn't the biggest guy going. He was a little guy. He had turned out for both quarterback and he wanted to play in the secondary. He never let size get in his way. He was very tough. He hit as hard as anyone on the team.
He had a broken fibula, and a lot of players, it would have been a way to cop out. I made the Olympic team, but I broke my leg or something. But he continued to compete.
There are a lot of great players in this league, but somehow they seem to get injured or miss games. And John Stockton, you pretty much can pencil in 82 games every year, and you know what you're going to get. And it doesn't matter if he's banged up, if he's sore, if he's hurt. You know he's going to be there. You know he's going to play the minutes.
Tough guy to compete against, a guy who never backed down.
John Stockton was one of the toughest guys I ever played against there. We had a series in the playoffs. It was our first series in Sacramento, and we were playing against Utah, great Karl Malone and Stockton, and I felt that our team was in awe of them. We were younger, and so I told Coach Alderman before the game, I said, on the first play of the game, I'm going to lay Stockton's ass out. And Coach said, are you sure? I said, yeah. I said, trust me, Coach, it's the first game. We just need to do it. Like, they're prepared for everything that's coming. They don't expect it. I lay him out on the screen. I'm talking about I lay him out, one of the best screens I ever did. Got my shoulder kind of in that head area, too, to kind of make it a little dirty. He pops up off the ground, pats me on the butt, and says, nice screen. Do you know how demoralizing that is? You know what I mean? So, yeah, he was one of the toughest guys, and I loved it, too. After that game, we would play him in the playoffs, and I would make rookies wait on the bus, and I would say, watch the baddest man in the world pull up. And they're like, what do you mean? They think I'm going to talk about, like, his cars and all this. And John Stockton would come to the game, literally in a minivan, pop his kids out, come in there, and bust us up. So, yeah, he's a bad man.
Malone handles it to Stockton. Bob, in the beginning of this game, you're going to see the Kings want to guard Karl Malone quite a bit differently. John Stockton takes a nice fall there. Getting up slow. That's unusual for John because he's usually like a bouncing ball. He hits it and gets right back up.
And they give the personal foul to Chris Webber to start this game, and that's bad news because Webber got an early foul trouble in the other game. Want to remind you that we'll update you on that New York Knicks and Miami Heat game with interviews at halftime, so be sure and stay with us for that. Miami getting the victory, 83-73.
It's bad news for John Stockton, but not a bad way to start the game off for the Kings. They were lack of physicality in game one. This might be a message to the whole King team that, hey, I'm coming out here tonight ready to play. I just took one just to let you know that.
As you see, John Stockton shooting the technical free throw because Webber picked up a flagrant foul. So it's 2 free throws and the ball, not a technical, 2 free throws and the ball. So Chris Webber will know if his back's okay after leveling John Stockton.
Sit him down is what he does. J.R. Reed, watch out, John Stockton, the Major League elbow. Then Stockton takes down the Admiral to the floor. Bench is clear. Stockton said it was all part of the game. I don't think that's what he's telling Darryl Garrettson. Jerry Sloan, the one, the only one to get ejected.
1994, a contentious and physical series that featured plenty of altercations. John Stockton and David Robinson got into it in Game 1. Jerry Sloan was ejected.
Now Sloan is going to get a tee and be ejected. He's out of here.
Talk about your injection and what happened down there.
23 points for Jeff. Jazz up by 4. Now, Dennis Rodman, watch him, annoyed by the Jazz, annoyed by John Stockton, slaps him, and then get this, Dennis isn't finished. Using his noggin with a headbutt, he wasn't ejected, but Rodman's team did lose, 106-96.
After this cheap shot against Stockton that earned the Worm a 1-game suspension.
I shouldn't have said anything. That's not my style, and I regret having said anything.
I had to feel a little good, though. You had to.
I don't know about that. It never feels good to break character.
Points. In fact, for Rodman, that equals his season high.
Stockton goes down hard. Delivered a below to John Stockton.
Sloan, man. Sloan would like to take off his coat and challenge Rodman head on. He wants a timeout, and he's ready to fight himself, Sloan. He says, you're going to maim my players. And that's the penalty that Stockton gets, and he feels he was cheap-shotted. And this is, I look at Stockton, he can't believe that a fellow professional would nail it.
Watch the hip right there, and he gets him down low, right around in the hip area, and that usually turns out to be a hip pointer, and that's a real painful injury, difficult to run. You can't really stand a hit right now, and John Stockton, he's writhing in pain.
Could be a costly victory for both sides.
And you'll watch Rodman come out. If you stop it right there, you'll see that leg come out, and that's where John Stockton goes over, and we'll find out the extent of the injury.
He's willing to take it. He hands it out, but he's willing to take it, and he's challenging verbally Rodman, who's looking back at him.
And see, and Lucas is saying, just go to the dressing room, don't say anything to anybody, just get in there, and on the way out, he has something to say to the Jazz.
Now, you wouldn't want to hang around too long around that Utah bench. There are a few folks over there that were ready to stand up for Stockton.
Control by Isaiah. Right side. He'll go right to left. This pass gets away. Here's a fight as Rodman wants to go after Stockton. And Stockton didn't do anything on the play, but Rodman reacted quickly. Jerry Sloan, the Jazz coach, out there as quick as anybody. And they break it up. Rodman went down, and he really turned on Stockton. Here's the play. And down he went, and then he turns around and goes after Stockton. Stockton got to his feet quickly.
And that's Jerry Sloan now is letting Dennis Rodman know.
He said, if you want a piece of somebody, get me.
That's right. You know,
came out with a pick on Utah's John Stockton, just throws him to the ground. That's a technical foul.
I will say this.
Seen two examples of it back-to-back by the Utah Jazz. Jazz up now. They're trying to get the defensive pressure at the point of attack, make Portland have tougher decisions.
Kersey, little longer range, and Karl Malone rebounds, and Stockton and Williams collide.
No, well, first Cliff Robinson threw John Stockton to the floor. Then Buck Williams came and hit John in the head with his kneecap. So John is, here it is, he just threw John to the floor there, and Cliff Robinson. Now Buck Williams falls on top of his head, and John Stockton said yesterday, hey, I like it physical. Well, baby, you getting it physical today.
Smallest man on the court at 6'1", Stockton, and he's got a pretty good-sized furnace inside that little body, and he looks as if he's ready to fight.
He's tough as nails.
Robinson upset on that play. As you'll see the head go down. It also tells us he's got a pretty hard head because he bounced right up off that hardwood.
Oh, when you talk about pure point guard, you know, it's no other than John Stockton. He can do it all, and to take the beating and the pounding that he's taken in his career, he's got to be tough.
Second half with a tray.
Well, the same thing we just talked about. No body, no pressure, no hand pressure in his face. He's just shooting freely, and they're knocking John Stockton all over the place. Duckworth just hit him that time.
Duckworth a little too much body and hands, gets his third foul.
And Duckworth is a player who picks up cluster fouls, but he's trying to let John Stockton know he's not going to be able to run anywhere. Stockton trying to set a screen, and John stays in there.
Russell for three. Russell with his third three-pointer, and Kerr and Stockton became entangled. They've had a very physical matchup these past couple of games. John Stockton and Steve Kerr, as Kerr got his marching orders from Phil Jackson to be more physical. And that's very tough against the little John Stockton. All Kerr could do was take Stockton down. And double technicals called on Stockton and Kerr. These two guys go back quite some time. John Stockton played at Gonzaga, had a terrific career. That's a reach and foul.
Oh my God. John was a person that would stretch the boundaries.
The PG version of what
a person.
Am I allowed to say that word on TV?
Really going to talk. Well, that time he tried to do a point guard move, and the point guard stole it from Malone with a jam, and he's fouled by Williamson. Three-point opportunity. And a chance for the Jazz to take back the lead. That's two on Corliss. Wait a minute. Jerry Sloan already out here. Williamson, let's watch this. Well, here we go. Let's see what happens here. Little slap on the side.
Okay, let's say it was a slap in the face after the elbow.
Double technicals.
Yeah, good call by the referee. Not enough to warrant anybody getting kicked out. But let me tell you something. Stockton gave the first elbow right about there. Bang, right there in the jaw. And then he slapped him. You know, hey, no love tap. Nothing serious.
Double technicals, game.
Malone wants nothing to do with Corliss Williamson. Right here, elbow and then the slap. Nothing heavy though.
Second half, things get weird. Watch John Stockton. Stockton cuts to the lane, sets the pick on Eldon Campbell, once through, and then back around. Couple of elbows, whistle, technical on Campbell. Then, wait a second, what's this lunatic fan doing on the floor? That's not a lunatic fan. That's Jazz owner Larry Miller on the floor, protecting his guys. Fourth quarter, the Jazz up by 3. Stockton comes up with the steal, up ahead of Jeff Hornacek. all by himself for the lay-in. Lead went back and forth, but too much back for Jerry Sloan at this point. The Jazz would lead by 1, closing seconds. Nick Van Exel with the ball. Stockton, good defense on him. Van Exel, a bad shot. Nearly goes. The Jazz hang on to win it. How about the owner, Larry Miller, going out onto the floor? The mailman said it brought us to life a little.
Darrell Griffith, who Jeff Malone rests here to start the fourth quarter. Deshaun Elliott to the left corner to Strickland. Strickland left to right in the paint. Stock knocks it away. Strickland gets it back. Stolen by Bailey. Down court, Stockton. Chased by Sidney Green, and Stock waits for the foul. Now that could be a breakaway, flagrant foul.
No question, he was fouled from behind, and it was the way he fouled him. So I'm sure, I'm positive this will be what you would call a breakaway, not a breakaway foul, a flagrant foul.
Stockton very wise. Possession. They shoot 2 and get possession.
Stockton slowed down to draw the foul. He did not like that hard foul by Charlie Ward. Ward got a hand in his... The drop step coming up short. And Stockton took a shot to the side of the head. 22nd timeout has been called. And he's drawn blood.
Ewing on that miss. Stockton gets hit by Charles Oakley. Charles, with his very active hands, clipped him.
And we mentioned earlier that there was an incident on the Utah Jazz bench between Greg Morris and head coach Jerry Sloan, something that has occurred on several occasions.
From Steve Nash. That's why when he doesn't play well, they can't win. And this year he's been healthy. That's been the bottom line for Nash. If he's healthy, blocking foul called on Stockton. And Stockton has 3 personals.
A lot of blood here. This is a tough call that goes against John Stockton.
Nash's forehead is bleeding.
Well, Nash is going to have to go and get a ton of treatment here because the head collision and John Stockton trying to find out what planet he's on here. I just don't see how that's a defensive foul. John Stockton is stepping right in there.
Stockton talking with Eddie Rush, and Nash is going to go back into the locker room to get attended to.
And now Don Nelson is going to have to put a free throw shooter in there.
Earlier in the third quarter, Steve Nash colliding with the chin of John Stockton, and Nash had to go back to the Mavericks locker room to get some stitches. And let's get an update from Lewis Johnson.
All right, Mike, thanks a lot. I'm standing here in the tunnel expecting Steve Nash.
This is what the Kings do best, and that's to run. Bad pass from Williams. A great steal from the NBA's all-time leader in steals. Wave off the basket. Williams fouls Stockton.
That's great anticipation by John Stockton on the pass. And when you look at the defense right there, nice hands. And on the break, Stockton trying to get the ball to Malone. You saw him look over his shoulder, always aware of it. Watch him look over his shoulder. Now he knows that he's got a man trailing, and John Stockton.
Way in this day. The tongue was out, full extension.
Keith. Oh, and MJ and Stockton got involved. And Michael looked at Stockton and said, don't do that. And now Stockton comes up and gives it right back to Michael. And Michael is still talking to him. We started this ball game off by saying that he does little things like that that drive you nuts. And Michael takes one more verbal shot at him. And now he'll walk off the floor as Steve Kerr comes in for him. Stockton hits the personal fouls on Michael Jordan is first. Former Olympic teammates.
Yeah, dream teamers.